Hello, welcome. I'd like to begin by asking you to just take a moment and imagine yourself as a tree. Each challenge we face, each storm, each season leaves behind these rings of growth. This week has been one that has shook me, and I can only imagine that many of you are also feeling a lot of feelings as we've watched this roller coaster ride of what might happen with some Head Start and early Head Start possible shutdowns. Now we know they're not happening, and we're grateful for that. And yet, we're still feeling the ripple effect of that in our community. So, this moment, although it's been painful, I'm hoping we can view as another ring being formed in our tree. And I want to help us to just choose to pause, breathe, and respond with intention rather than reacting from fear. And this is going to help us create a stronger trunk, a stronger tree as we head in to future seasons and future possible storms. We're going to use this as an opportunity to grow wiser, stronger, and more rooted in who we want to be for ourselves and for our community. Hi, I'm Chelsea, and you may know me from my work at Healthy You as the Director of Children and Family Programs. Last year, I opened up a new preschool called All Around Kids Community Preschool. But today, I'm here wearing my hat of conscious discipline coach with the Family Connection. And in general, I believe I see myself as an advocate for families and children in Southern Oregon and for the educators who care for them. I'm here today because I know a lot of us are really wrestling with what's coming up inside us as we've watched this threatened closure of the local Head Start and early Head Start programs operated by Southern Oregon Children and Family Council. And this is hitting a lot of us in different ways. You might be a teacher at Head Start or early Head Start, or just an early childhood educator in the field watching what's happening, like myself. You might be a parent. You might be a former Head Start student or family member or staff. And you might just be someone who deeply cares about our community, just a concerned citizen who doesn't even have actual ties to the Head Start program, but knows how important it is in serving people in our community. And I'm guessing if you're anything like me, you've been feeling a lot of fear and uncertainty, some grief, even anger. And I'm here today to just reassure myself as well as all of you that these are normal responses to a painful and destabilizing situation. And so what I'm hoping that we can do in this next little time together is I'm hoping to share some of the conscious discipline approach thoughts that might apply to this situation. And it'll help us to calm and empower ourselves so that we can really understand what's happening in our nervous systems. And that's going to allow us to respond with intention rather than react impulsively. So my hope is that you walk away from this video feeling seen, grounded, and supported. And like I said, I'll be using some thoughts deeply rooted in the conscious discipline approach created by Dr. Becky Bailey. You may have taken my conscious discipline parenting class in the past through the Family Connection, or I also offer classes to teachers, and I'm doing that at Road Community College this term. If you haven't heard of conscious discipline, it's a trauma-informed, brain-based approach to social emotional learning and to discipline and to self-regulation. And we, as teachers and parents, know the value of helping offer social emotional learning and regulation practice to our young children. One of the things that really separates conscious discipline from many other parenting and teaching approaches is that this is an adult first practice. And so I think this is really an opportunity as we experience upheaval in our community for us as adults to practice that social emotional regulation that we talk about so much. And I really see this as an opportunity for us to kind of walk the talk on what we encourage our kids to do when we name our feelings and work through them and find calm even when the world is not going our way. That's what conscious discipline has helped me to do. It's made to help children and adults understand what's happening in our brains and bodies when we're stressed out so that we can respond with connection instead of just trying to control the situation. At its heart, conscious discipline believes that all behavior is communication and that safety, connection, and problem solving, not punishment, are what truly create lasting change. I do just have to say, I'm not a conscious discipline certified instructor yet, but I've been studying the approach and sharing my learning for about 7 years now. And if this is your first opportunity to learn about this, then I'll stay tuned. And at the end, I'll let you know how you can find out more about conscious discipline. I was fortunate enough to go meet the great Dr. Becky Bailey in person last summer at the Conscious Discipline Institute Level 1 in Denver, Colorado. And this past February, I attended the Level 2 Institute as well to continue my learning. And it's been a great privilege to get to really learn from the minds who have created this. And I'm really honored to have this opportunity to share this learning with you because it's truly changed my life and the way that I can hold peace in my heart when times get hard. If you've ever done any conscious discipline learning or been in any of my classes before, you are probably familiar with the Brain Smart Start, which is a conscious discipline structure intentionally designed to help our brains be in the best possible place for learning. So we'll take a moment to unite, disengage stress, connect, and commit as we move into this little mini lecture of sorts. I promise it'll be more fun than that sounds. So to unite, I'm going to bring forward one of my favorite songs, and maybe you've sung this with me before. I'll put the lyrics on the screen so you can join in. This is Let the Wild Wind Blow, originally written by Tom Paxton and released in 1992 on his album Susie is a Rocker. Now, on the screen, you see a picture of one of my heroes of early childhood education, and she's not related to conscious discipline approach, but this is Bev Boss, and she's the one who taught me this song at a Together for Young Children winter conference put on by our local chapter of the Oregon AEYC, or the Association for Education of Young Children. That was many years ago, but this song has always stuck with me. And when Bev introduced it, she talked about how this song always reminded her of working with young children, particularly toddlers, where we have these big storms of emotion and then we find that calm, cuddly, sweet spot again. And I've felt that a lot of times through the years, but in this moment, I'm thinking about this song on kind of a broader scale, and it's really just helping me hold in mind that this is a moment and it too shall pass, and that sometimes we're going to have these big storms of feeling, but eventually the clouds will turn and go and the sun will shine again. So sing along with me on your side of the screen if you're willing, and let's take a moment to just breathe and ground and unite our minds with this lovely song. When the wind blows hard and the trees all bend, it can make us wonder if the storm will ever end. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. Again, let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. When the skies grow darker, as dark as night, we come together and we watch by candlelight. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. See the lightning flashing, hear the thunder clap, you clap. We hug each other and we look for a friendly laugh. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. again. When the storm is over, we go out in the air. We look to the heavens and we find a rainbow there. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. Let the wild wind blow, let it rain, and then the clouds will turn and go, and the sun will shine again. Now, I don't know when you're watching this, but I'm recording it on a Saturday morning, and the danger has passed. We know that our Head Start and early Head Start centers are staying open. The storm is over. We can go out to the heavens, find our rainbow there, and bask in that glorious sunlight. And yet, we need to acknowledge that our nervous systems have been through some stuff this week, and we have to hold space for that so that we can allow it to live in our bodies and have it be an opportunity for growth rather than something that stays stagnant within us. So I'm going to invite you to join me in a star breath. If you don't know about the STAR, it's an acronym and it stands for smile, take a deep breath, and relax. Although I've learned a new one in my recent attendance at the Conscious Discipline Institutes, and rather than smile, take a deep breath and relax, which sometimes feels a little forced, or sometimes we use it like stop, take a deep breath and relax. I'm going to invite you to make a new association with the S in STAR, and now it's going to be soften. So for a moment, allow those feelings to bubble up inside you when you were reading your email or scrolling your social media or getting that phone call or having that conversation at the grocery store where you learned that we might be facing potential closures of care centers for some of our most vulnerable community members. Whew, it was not a good feeling. But we always have the choice to find our composure. And so we're going to intentionally soften. Let your face relax. Your brows will come down. Your shoulders fall. Take a nice deep breath into your belly. And feel your body soften as you slowly let that air out. One more time. See if you can soften just 10% more. In your belly, in your feet, in your tongue. Soften, take a deep breath, and relax. It's going to be okay. In moments where these feelings come up for you, I want to offer you the strategy of a square breath, which is not one of the conscious discipline breathing icons, but it's a very helpful strategy for regulating your nervous system. So begin where the heart is shown on your screen and breathe in with me for the count of 4 and make sure that breath goes down all the way to your belly button. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it, 2, 3, 4. Breathe it out, 2, 3, 4. Hold again, 2, 3, 4. Now another deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold it, 2, 3, 4. Check in with your body. How's it feeling? You're welcome to pause this video and do that as many times as it feels good to you. And then tuck this little tool in your tool belt and it'll be there for you anytime you need it. When I had the privilege of meeting with Dr. Bailey this summer in Denver, she helped me to understand a concept that I've been practicing in conscious discipline for a long time for myself, but I've never truly felt it until I was able to do it with her in her presence. And I'm going to try to share that with you here today. What I want to practice for us to connect, although we're all watching this video at different times and different places, I believe that the power of wishing well can connect us across time and space. Now, this picture might seem a little out of the blue, but this is a tribute to Dr. Bailey, because she told a story when we were at the Conscious Discipline Institute about how when she was a young girl, she was just absolutely obsessed with Pegasus. You know, there's some girls who like horses, and I kind of liked cows. I don't know, but her thing was Pegasus. And so she started this practice young in her life. My understanding is long before she was like the creator of conscious discipline. She has always had this beautiful energy that she's willing to give to the universe. And the way that she practiced doing that was by imagining herself as a Pegasus with these big, glorious wings. And when she was in a moment that was challenging and she needed to send out some love to someone, she would imagine herself spreading those wings. And she made this great sound effect when she did it. As the wings spread, you kind of go, they thwap back there. And as you spread your wings, you're opening your heart center and you're beaming your intention of love like a robot. What am I trying to say? Like a beam. I don't know, laser beam, like a robot's laser beam. You're just beaming your love out to, could be a specific person, could be to the community or the universe at large. Sometimes the most powerful one is to just send it right back to yourself. So I'd like you to pick what feels right for you. Maybe there's a certain person you're thinking of. Maybe there's a family or some specific children that you care for. Or maybe you just want to take a moment to send yourself some of that good energy. Now, you don't have to be the Pegasus if you're not a Pegasus kind of person. For me, my metaphor that resonates more deeply is to imagine myself as a tree. And instead of flapping out my wings, I send down my roots into the ground where I'm able to source all that abundant, loving energy from the earth and send it from my heart as well as from my crown to those around me. This is what it means to wish well. And it's a powerful tool for self-care and regulation. The more you use it, the more you'll find it can be an incredible aid to you when you're in conflict or when you're in a challenging situation. If you're able to shift your energy, if you're willing to pivot towards love and send that energy out with consciousness, it changes everything. So for just a moment, let's practice. Gather that good love into your heart. And whether you're a Pegasus or a tree or a robot or anything else, thanks for being here with me. I wish you well. The final step of our Brain Smart Start is to commit. And to commit, I want to share a quote that I've heard many times, but it was recently reshared with me by my dear friend Kate Dwyer, who's been an inspiring force towards advocating for some real solutions and change in this past week and in all of my life. She reminded us at the screening of Make a Circle this week that Margaret Mead gave us these powerful words. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I know that this has been a rather hopeless feeling week for me in the fear I've felt around what our current climate is and how we value early childhood education. Conscious discipline always helps remind me that I am the only one who can control myself. And when I do, I have a lot of power to affect change and to find creative solutions to the problems I face. And I want to just invite you all to consider with me that Even though this feels scary, we are not powerless in this situation. And this is why we want to take a moment to really nurture our hearts and our nervous systems so that we can show up in the most powerful way possible as we figure out how to move forward. Now, we're going to dive into this through the conscious discipline lens, as I've said many times. And I always want to just highlight this key phrase that comes from the beginning of the conscious discipline textbook and reminds us that conscious discipline encourages us to understand our own brain in order to become consciously disciplined adults who can achieve long-term goals despite obstacles and distractions. We then teach this process to our children. But I want to begin by just diving a little bit into some brain science, and it might be review for many of you, because it really is going to help us to understand what's going on inside of our bodies so that we can learn to regulate our emotions. And this is going to help us to create that safety and connection that we need to guide our children with the energy that they require in moments like this when life feels a little uncertain. We know that our ultimate goal is to provide a consistency of care for kids in our community who need it. That's our long-term goal. And we have to be able to stick to that goal despite obstacles and distractions. So even when the world is not going our way, such that we are threatened with the loss of that care or of our employment, we're still going to be able to use the skills we have to stay strong in these moments. So let's make sure we really understand what's going on in our brain. In conscious discipline, we understand that all of our behavior and our emotion comes through 3 different lenses. And we call it the brain state model. And it's a powerful framework for understanding what goes on. Although it should always be said, it is really rather a simplification of all the complex dynamics happening inside of our brains and bodies. And this is a brain, body, mind connection thing. It's not just happening in our brains. But it's helpful to think of it in this simplified way that there are 3 primary brain states. The survival state coming from your brain stem down here, or if it was in the model of your hand, it'd be your wrist. That's always scanning for your safety, trying to figure out, am I safe? Is the world around me in a situation where I can just operate in the status quo, or do I need to be primed to react, to go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn? If you feel safe, then your brain is also able to look around and determine through your limbic system, which is like your thumb tucked inside there, deep in the center of your brain. It's scanning to determine if you're loved or if you're connected or if you feel like you belong to this community in some way. And when we feel safe and we feel loved, then we're able to access our executive state, which is our prefrontal cortex right here behind our foreheads. And that allows us to have that willing attitude. What can I learn from this? How can I solve this problem? So let's just quickly look at how these states might show up for people in our community right now. If you are a parent hearing about the potential closures, that would mean you could almost immediately, with very little warning, lose your childcare. It would be completely reasonable for you to drop into your survival state because you're thinking, if my child loses their Head Start spot, I will have to quit my job. How will I pay rent? Where will we sleep? How will I pay the bills? And these thoughts quickly spiral. Your body tenses, your breathing shortens. That's not the place to do your reasoning or your planning. That's your fight, flight, or freeze stance. And it's okay to be there. We're going to help you move back out of that place. Now, if you're a teacher at Head Start, or even just a childcare worker in the community, you might be in your emotional state because you're not just grieving the potential loss of your job, which kind of has something to do with your identity, but you're also thinking about the impacts on children and families and feeling like all of this is out of your control. And it's likely to bring up past stories that have gone along with moments where you questioned how you would fill the role that you're meant to and pay your bills and do all the things. So it would likely leave you feeling overwhelmed and angry and helpless. And in this state, it's pretty difficult to really stay focused on what you can do to control the situation and how you're going to find your way out of it. There may be those of us who are able to access our executive state as we regulate our big feelings in a moment like this. I'm thinking particularly of community leaders and the administration who have been able to move into their executive state and acknowledge that this is painful and we don't have all the answers, but we can gather, we can listen, we can find the next step. Because when we're able to stay in that mindset, it allows us to collaborate and problem solve and show up to communicate with the clarity that we need. So I invite you to just check in with yourself about where you've been in this past week. And the answer is probably not just one of these states, right? Likely you've moved through all of them at different points as you consider different angles of it. And you might hold multiple roles in this. So, like I said, this is a very simplified version. When I was at the Level 2 Conscious Discipline Institute this past February, they introduced a new framework that accompanies the brain state model. And forgive me for this ugly slide that I just ripped off of there by taking a picture of their presentation. But in this, they were introducing the idea of the polyvagal theory, which was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. And he has helped us to really zoom in even more on just how dynamic this brain-body connection is, because it's not as cut and dry as the brain state model makes it sound, where you're either in safety brain or emotional or executive, right? It's not really like, now I feel this, now I feel that. That would be too robotic for how we are as humans. So instead, this chart, I think, really helpfully allows us to see how we move through different emotions that take us through these different states in our body. And you're constantly kind of going up and down as you regulate, and then have like a thought that dysregulates you, and then take a breath, or somebody makes you laugh and you move back up again, right? So it shifts so quickly. You can't really always just like put a pin in exactly what state you're in. But being aware of what's going on in your body and the fact that this is happening in the background, whether you're really all that conscious of it or not, can be really helpful in how you move forward. Because we have to, I'm sure you've heard this, we have to name it to tame it, right? So down the right side of this chart are a lot of different feeling words. And I'm going to invite you to take a moment to just look at that and acknowledge what feelings have come up for you in this event and how those might correlate with moving through different brain and body states. We tend to think of some of these things as good feelings, bad feelings. Like, I don't know about you, but I sure would rather feel curiosity and openness and joy from the top green part than I would rather feel disassociation and numbness and shame and depression from the lower red part. Conscious discipline has really helped me to understand how none of these feelings are actually bad. They are all here and meant to help me understand what's happening in my body and in the world around me. And one of, I think, the most helpful ways I've come to understand that is by really looking at what goes on in our interoceptive system. So whatever you want to call it, that's what's giving us the ability to feel what's happening inside of our bodies. And we are all very, very familiar with the physiologic states and the cues we get about that, right? Like, you might have a certain feeling in the back of your throat, and that you could kind of like go, does that mean do I need to cough? Do I need to sneeze? Oh, no, that means I'm thirsty. Oh, I feel this little sensation in my tummy. Does that mean I need to burp? Does it mean I need to go to the bathroom? Like you are tuned into these little messages that your body is giving you, right? But when you get these other little messages, not so much physiological messages, but emotional messages, like all of a sudden I feel tense, my stomach is like grumbling, and my face is going like this, like, oh, I feel angry. But do you accept that just as well as you would be like, oh, achoo, bless me, no big deal, right? No, a lot of us feel that irritability, that anger, that like discomfort, and we go, oh, I can't feel it. Like, I can't feel that right now. Or you feel your eyes starting to well up and you feel your face get hot. And what do? Immediately excuse yourself to go to another room and be by yourself, right? But why do we do that? Why do we not honor the feeling that comes up for us in that moment, as though it's trying to give us a message about what our body needs, just the same as if it was a cough or sneeze or burp? It's something to think about. And it's why conscious discipline developed something called feeling buddies. You may or may not have heard of this before. If you're a classroom teacher, you've probably seen little guys like this in your classroom. They all have different feeling faces on them. This one's blank, so we can use it in a lot of different ways. But the feeling buddies are designed to help us remember that our feelings are our buddies. They are intending to help us, to serve us, to give us a message about what's coming up for us and why that is, and how it could be helpful to us in the long run. And so when we're working with young children, we often do an exercise with the buddies where if we recognize that we feel scared, like that's been a big one for me this week. I feel really scared about what's going on in the funding and the political climate around early childhood, and a lot of other topics too. But early childhood education is my passion. And even though I don't work for Head Start, I see like a potentially a pattern emerging that I'm concerned could affect me. So what I might do, whether you have a real feeling buddy or not, you can try the same practice. And what we would guide our children to do would be to get the little one with the scared face, and we call him Scared. And we would say, hello, Scared. Welcome, Scared. Your face is going like this. Your body feels like this. You seem scared. Breathe with me. You can handle this. And you might take that process further. But when you personify that feeling and you welcome it into your heart, you can look deeper for the message that it holds and what it's trying to motivate you to do. We have these feelings that bubble up, and we want to honor those feelings that come into our minds. But something else to be aware of is that one of the most human things we do, especially when we're anxious, is we leapfrog out of the present moment and we land in a future that hasn't happened yet. We look at something hard or painful that's happening right now, and our brains immediately try to predict what that means for what's going to come next. And it's a way that your brain is trying to keep you safe. It's like our minds are saying, I've seen this before. I know where this is going. But what we're really doing is just bringing our past pain into the future and assuming those are the facts, like calling that the truth. And it happens automatically, especially when your nervous system is dysregulated. Like you won't even realize you're doing this. For example, like if a program closed in the past and people were left without jobs or childcare, then your brain is going to file that away as proof that we should brace for the worst. And as soon as we have this new threat, we start imagining all the worst possible case scenarios that could go with it. Like if we lose these centers, then parents lose their jobs and they get kicked out of their house. And then we have more homeless people or people who are houseless. and we like spiral to imagining that that is what's going to happen, rather than imagining maybe there'll be some amazing safety net that people come up with and help support these families in their time of training, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And that's the point, is we just have to try to stay in this present moment where we do know what's happening. So keep in mind that when you notice yourself jumping into that future with the worst case scenario, you can just like gently check in with yourself about it, and like say what is happening right now, and try to bring yourself back to this present moment. I'm safe. I do still have a job. I do still have childcare. Head Start is staying open, right? And just kind of really check in with yourself about what are the facts in that moment, and try to focus on what is one thing you can do to move forward. What's one thing you can do to be helpful in that moment to yourself or to someone else. Being present is going to really allow you to own your power in that moment instead of just going to that reaction. All right, we've already covered a lot of information, so let's just briefly pause for a balloon breath. You might know a balloon breath, and if not, all you need to do is put your hands on top of your head. Take a nice deep breath into your belly, blowing your belly up like a balloon as you also lift your arms as you inflate. And then slowly let it out. Let's do another one. All right. We had a quick little tech blip there, but we're back. Okay. Now, I had planned on, in the remainder of this video, running us through the 7 powers for conscious adults that are part of the conscious discipline approach. And I realize if we do all 7, this is going to be a really long video, and I don't think that's what we're aiming for here. So there will be a part 2 if your feedback indicates that it would be helpful. But I do want to just make sure that we cover the 2 powers and skills that help us create this felt sense of safety for ourselves and for the children in our community. And they're the absolute most foundational and prerequisite skills we need to be able to stay in our conscious minds and have that wise response when the world's not going our way. So here we see our little star friend again, and he invites us to soften. Take that deep breath and relax. And remember our power of perception, which states, whomever you've placed in charge of your feelings, you've placed in charge of you. And if you're anything like me, you've probably had a moment this week where you've said, or at least just thought, this whole situation with the possible closures of Head Start and Early Head Start is driving me insane. I can't believe this could happen. And we get this response that is, for me, mostly rooted in anger and fear. But with those 2 emotions often comes blame. And we start looking for someone to hold responsible for why this happened. Like, what went on that allowed this at whatever level of organization or structure or government that allowed this to happen, right? This isn't the conversation or the time or the place to ask a lot of those budgetary or political questions. This is a moment for us to use our power of perception, which invites us to pause and notice, what story am I telling myself about this moment? Am I giving my power away, or am I remembering that I and only I am in charge of how I respond to this moment? When we ground ourselves and breathe, we reclaim the ability to choose how we see this situation and how we show up in it. And from that place of calm and peace, we can lead with clarity rather than living in chaos. So I invite you to just feel this challenge presented to us in this past week of how easy it is to feel powerless when things happen outside of our control. And these Head Start closures, I'm sure, will not be the only thing coming our way that give us that sense. But we can reframe it by asking ourselves what meaning we're giving this situation. Can I see that my feelings are valid without letting them control my response? The practice is to pause and do that breath work. Take your 3 or 50 deep breaths and use that active calming strategy of doing some positive self-talk. I'm safe. I can handle this. Keep breathing. Something I keep reminding myself of lately is to simply trust the universe, love my people, and be myself. If I can trust the universe, love my people, and be myself, I think it's all going to be okay. And when you're able to reframe that perception of the world, that's going to allow you to access your skill of composure, which is self-regulation in action. It's being the person you want others to become. Think about that for a moment. How do you want other people to be showing up in that situation? We have to be that change we want to see in the world. As I was scrolling my social media last night in a hot bath, regulating my nervous system, I came across this post I thought was really apt for this moment from the brilliant Adam Grant. He says, emotion regulation is not about denying your feelings. It's about choosing a constructive response. Victimhood is blaming others for what you feel. Regulation is taking responsibility for how you react. Gives me chills. And this is like the 7th time I've read it. A key to resilience is expanding the space between stimulus and response. And then he gave us this little cartoon that actually comes from Research Doodles by M. Chandel. And it says how we often treat emotions and our states of being are saying things like, I'm really anxious, I'm beyond angry, I'm so sad. Instead, what can work better is to say it as a state of feeling rather than a state of being. And this is very aligned with the conscious discipline approach of having 5 steps towards emotional regulation, rather than I am the emotion, I feel the emotion, helps you move forward. So instead of I'm really anxious, I'm experiencing anxiety. I'm not beyond angry, I'm holding anger. Instead of I'm so sad, I have sadness. And that reminds us that the wild wind can blow, but the sun will shine again. As we hold that in mind, I'll leave you with one more of the conscious discipline powers and skills, and that is the power of attention and the skill of assertiveness. Our brains are wired to scan for danger, and it's a gift because it's there to keep us alive and keep us safe. But in times where there is a lot of perceived danger, we have to work extra hard to keep our focus on what we want. This power of attention says what you focus on, you get more of. So if you focus on the danger and the fear and the possibility of loss, what are you going to get more of? That's not what you want. This power asks, where do I want to put my attention? What do I want to manifest and attract into my life? If we focus only on what's falling apart, we miss what's still holding us up. Our relationships, our shared values, creativity, care. There's been people coming together in our community to figure out how we can problem solve this all week. And that's a beautiful thing, right? That's the energy we want more of. We're using our assertiveness to state how we want to be treated and what we want to see in our community. And that doesn't have to mean being forceful. It means clearly stating what we do want and believe in and standing for it without needing to control others. So the challenge in this power is that when that news and certainty is overwhelming, we tend to get overly focused on the part that is hard. And if you want to try to reframe this with me, ask yourself, am I focusing on what I can't control or what I can? Something that might help you is to take on a gratitude practice, or just simply to notice the things that are going well, even if they're small. Celebrate those tiny victories and see how they bring more of that joy into your life. Now let's do one more breath together. To do the drain, all you have to do is put out your arms and imagine you're this faucet. And as you turn on the water, you breathe in. Now tighten up your arms. And then as you breathe out, relax and let all the tension drain out of your body as that water drains down the sink and it all swirls away. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. For some of you, this may have been a review, and for others, this may be an introduction to the conscious discipline approach. And if it appeals to you and you'd like to learn more, I'd encourage you to go straight to the source by visiting consciousdiscipline.com, where they have lots of training opportunities, online modules. You can create a free login and then access resources such as these little breathing cards if you want to practice this at home with your own kids, and lots of other ideas and inspiration. Also, just going to YouTube or any of the social media platforms, you'll find a lot of free conscious discipline content. I highly recommend that approach. There's a series of webinars on YouTube called Being the Best You Can Be with Dr. Bailey that will help walk you through all 7 of the powers and skills. If you'd like to continue this approach with me personally, I offer a parenting class sponsored by the Family Connection and using the conscious discipline approach. It's offered on Zoom and it happens to be going right now, although we're entering week 3 and it's a little late to jump on board, but it's possible. You can reach out to me if you're interested and we could talk about it, or know that it will be offered again, most likely in the fall. Also, if you're a teacher and you want to take a more classroom-centered approach to this rather than the parenting version, although it's really all the same thing, but with a slightly different focus. Currently, I'm offering this as a class to teachers through the intermediate cohort at Road Community College. It happens on Wednesday nights at Redwood campus. And once again, you'd be a little behind the curve, but it's not impossible that you could join in on that if you contacted me no later than Monday, April 14th. So that's a little bit more about the conscious discipline thing, and reach out if you have questions. There's lots of information, and these ideas, they didn't come from my brain. I believe in them with all my heart and soul. And yet I didn't create this content, and I'm just passing on the wisdom from many other greats who came before me. Now, to tune in more specifically to our community and where we can go from here, I want to first just encourage you to really focus on nourishing your nervous system as you move forward, which is going to allow you to be in control of your brain and body state, of your polyvagal system. And I created this list just kind of like off the top of my head of what has worked well for me to nourish my nervous system. But there's lots of other great wisdom out there. I encourage you to go research and find what works for yourself. Doing breath work, lots of intentional deep breathing, proactively practicing it, meditation, journaling, therapy, just having good conversations with trusted friends, some yoga and stretching and mindful movement, knowing that trauma lives in your hips and you need to stretch them out daily. Your nervous system is nourished by healthy fats that allow messages to move through all your wiring. So either eating healthy fats as part of your diet or using some neutral oils like coconut or grape seed on your skin is a really helpful strategy. Also, what's deeply connected to your nervous system are your ears. So giving them a nice little gentle, deep pressure massage. Learn more about your circadian health and get plenty of sleep. If you have a female body, be sure to honor your menstrual phases and get lots of magnesium. Rest when you're menstruating and be energetic when you're ovulating, and don't expect it to go the other way because it just doesn't work like that. All the time, be mindful of your exercise and your diet. And one of the best things you can do for your nervous system, honestly, I think, is to just be with things and people and places that feel safe to you. So like for me personally, after a big emotional week, I'm not making a lot of social plans this weekend, although there's events that I would like to go to. Instead, I'm doing things like taking a walk in the sun, putting on Disney Plus and listening to my favorite movies from my childhood, like The Lion King and The Little Mermaid, that I felt safe listening to when I was a little kid. And so those memories live deep inside my nervous system. That place that my body could relax and process all the big feelings that have been going through it so that I can move forward in a more regulated way with next work week. Speaking of next work week, if you are a person who would have been actually affected by these closures, like you didn't have a job, you thought you didn't have a job to go back to on Monday, or you didn't have childcare, I want to really encourage you to think about moving into more rituals and routines with the kids. So like in your classroom or in your home, just like you don't need to bring out a whole bunch of new exciting stuff or have like a really beefed up lesson plan. You just need to have a really intentional meeting time or a meal time, or like if you have a sacred little way you get your kid up out of bed in the morning, like just pour your energy and time into that. because those rituals and routines are what help us really keep that connected sense of safety with our people. And also, I want to say, don't be afraid to be transparent with your kids about how this is a hard moment for you and you need help regulating. And you can play it like, my body's feeling a little anxious. I think I need to practice some deep breaths. Can you help me remember how to do this balloon breath so maybe you could help me take some deep breaths. And I think if I know kids at all, they will just eat up that opportunity to be the expert and help you like you often help them. Some other ideas as we move forward are that there are more resources available for you and people behind the scenes who are just passionate about supporting you in any way we can at the Family Connection. So visit www.thefamilyconnect.org for more resources. Be sure to go big on that self-care and soothe your nervous system. Connect with the people in your life. Make sure you stay focused on what you want and not just get into a big vent session, all living up your victimness, because it's something to watch out for right now. I fall into that too. And finally, look in the description below for a survey link that's going to offer you an opportunity to share a little bit more about what would be helpful to you. And you might have ideas if you'd like to see more content like this or potentially in different formats. I'm open to hosting a live session if people would like to come together so that we can really all connect and feel each other's energy, even if only through a Zoom screen. I've also thought about doing a podcast with something like this, and maybe like parents or teachers could call in and we could take a conscious discipline approach to some of the problems that are coming up in real time. So if you'd be interested in that, let me know. Really open to suggestion, and I, as always, truly honor any feedback you have. So please feel free to get in touch if there's any way that I can be supportive to you. I'll leave you with one last quick little social post I saw that I think is timely and a great reminder. Someone reminded me that I wish people knew that hugs were medicine. We need 4 hugs a day to get by. That reminds me of a great song I used to always listen to in my preschool classroom. I think it's by Charlotte Diamond. It goes, 4 hugs a day, that's the minimum. 4 hugs a day, not the maximum. 4 hugs a day. So that's the minimum we need to get by. 8 hugs a day is a maintenance dose, and 12 hugs a day will leave you thriving. You got to do 20 seconds to lower your stress hormones and blood pressure, improve your sleep, relax your body, increase oxytocin and dopamine, and regulates the nervous system. A lot of people are walking around with a hug deficiency. So what I will offer you is, as you go forward, and if you see someone in the community when you go to work on Monday or when you're out just at the grocery store or the gas station, if you see someone who you think maybe has watched this video too and has felt this same roller coaster of emotions that you've been on, I want you to do a little wish well and open up your arms to offer them a hug. And if they've seen this video, they're going to know exactly what you're doing, and they're going to give you that big 20-second hug right back. And if they haven't seen this video, you got nothing to lose by just opening up your arms and offering them a hug, right? It's going to make the world a better place. So that's your homework. As we end, from my heart to your heart, I wish you well. Thank you for caring about the kids and the teachers and the parents in this community. I'm really grateful to be here with you.